Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have a new video for you on a new tank, the new British Premium, the Tier VIII Medium Defender Mark I. As always, we will have a look at the tech spec first, giving you all the information you need, and we'll use blitzhanger.com for that. But before that, let's have a look at the cost of this premium tank. It's 25,000 gold in a bundle, or 15,000 on its own, which in real money translates to 70 euros, so about 75 bucks. 42 euros on its own, or what's that, about $46 on its own. So I've seen a lot of forums now, other influencers and other blitzers, YouTubers saying that this is good value. Is it? I mean, okay, it's cheaper than some of the tanks they put out, but that's still a lot of money for a tank. And by the way, the single, if you're only interested in this tank, if you have the others, or interested in this tank because it's new, comes without any equipment unlocked, so you have to pay for that as well in credits. So let's have a look at that later on. Anyway, it is a good medium tank. Let's review the tank in its own right. For getting the money for the second, I would run black tea, improved fuel and pudding and tea on this to max out that view range, reload and engine performance, which is very important. The view range goes up to 302 meters, which is one of the best in the tier and key to medium tank play when you run black tea. I would run calibrated shells because it is an autoloader, supercharge and a vertical stabilizer, which are the best setup, I believe, for a medium tank like this. Now, it only has an 87mm gun, right? Now, it does have 226mm of pen on the AP, which is pretty good, 258mm of pen with APCR, which is your Pramo, and 42mm of pen with HE when you run calibrated shells. I would run calibrated shells because it is an autoloader. The difference that makes in the magazine load time is insignificant, as Dr. Evil would say, inconsequential, compared to the overall benefits of the penetration. Now, muzzle velocity is 10-20 meters per second, which you will get up to 30 and 26 meters per second with supercharge. Therefore, I would recommend you use supercharge, maximize that muzzle velocity, because as we know, muzzle velocity is extremely important in the formula for armor penetration. Now, note muzzle velocity with APCR is higher. It's 1658 meters per second. That's a 23, so it's almost a quarter difference. So take note of that. Your APC shells will cover distance a lot faster. Dispersion, or in actuality dispersion, is maximum deviation from the target, is good. It's basically 0.326, which basically means that over 100 meters it's 32.6 centimeters. That's the maximum deviation you can have from the center point of your aiming target. It's 10 degrees gun depression, which is really good, 18 degrees of elevation, so gun alignment is easy and good in this tank. Gun alignment is basically the ability of you to line your barrel up with the enemy tank, and it's good on this tank because of those parameters. It does 46 kilometers per hour in a straight line, 20 in reverse, which tells us what? The top speed. But as we've discussed before, that's not really that important with a tank. What's really important, and what a lot of people fail to take note of, is the power to weight ratio, because that determines how mobile the tank is and how agile it is. And this has a great power to weight ratio. Now, it really takes off. It's fast, and it's much better than the Chimera, which has a really poor power to weight ratio, which is another British premium tier 8 which came out recently and we've reviewed. Now, it does have not such good traverse, but if you move the tracks, because the tank is agile, you can compensate that. So you reverse lock your tracks, swing around your turret, and you won't have any problems traversing in this tank. Now let's look at the concealment. Concealment is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Best case, not moving, not firing. The enemy tank needs to get within 242.8 meters of view. That's a 304 view range, which is like an RU, which is the best in class. And your worst case scenario is firing and moving. You're going to be exposed at 287 meters. So its concealment is okay. It's okay. But its own view range is good, and those two combined make it a powerful spotter and scout. Now, let's have a look at the armor profile. What do we see? What do we take note of? We're experienced blitzers. What this jumps out at us? Well, this turret, right? Look at this turret. Look at that gun mantlet. It's huge, and the armor around it is significant. Therefore, this tank can almost not be penned front on the turret. You've got that cool spaced armor on the sides of the turret, which is going to deflect and bounce shots. It also means that HE and heat cannot pen you, and certainly can't do full alpha rolls onto your front of your turret. So now we're beginning to see what the armor aspects and profile and game style of this tank is. We know 10 degrees of gun depression. We know this really trollish turret armor. So we know now this is a hull down monster. This is what this tank is going to excel at. We see that the sides and back there isn't really too much armor. We see that front on there is a little bit of armor, but not much. Again, look here at our front on armor display. Even when you go up to tier 9, this tank is virtually impenetrable front on its turret. So therefore, we know hull down, this tank will perform, and they're the tactics that we want to use in this tank. Now, for those of you who want to get this tank and who want to have it in their garage but do not play autoloaders, it's important that you take note of its gun system, because autoloaders are very different to other tanks. It's very different game style to playing with a single shot normal firing system, and therefore what I think would be good for us to do at this point is to take a little time out and have a mini tutorial on using autoloaders. Now, some of you will have seen this in other videos where we've looked at autoloaders, so I do apologize if you've seen this before, but I think it's very important for those watching who have never fired autoloaders and want to get this tank that we run through this. So we're going to have a mini tutorial and cover all the essentials, everything you need to know to use an auto-loading firing system effectively. Now, I think as we said, one of the key things is that you play an autoloader differently to a tank with a normal firing system, and one of the key reasons for that is the manner in which you engage the enemy. So this straight line here represents how you engage the enemy, how you influence a game in a normal tank with a normal firing system. So basically, it allows you to engage the enemy consistently, right? So your engagement is linear. You have a fixed amount of time between the shells you fire. Let's say it's 5.5 seconds. So there, every 5.5 seconds you can engage the enemy, ceteris paribus, all things being equal. But that is not the case with autoloaders. With autoloaders, you engage the enemy in cycles. You have periods of increased activity, increased engagement, where you can engage the enemy far more than you can in a tank with a normal firing system. But you also have periods where you can engage the enemy far less, and that's when your magazine is reloading. So you can do things, of course, like scout and spot and capture bases, but you can't fire them, you can't engage them and do damage. Therefore, it is a period of decreased activity. And you need to play according to these cycles. Firstly, you need to be aware of those cycles. Secondly, you need to play to those cycles. And thirdly, you need to maximize the amount of time that you can engage the enemy to your fullest. That is, that when you can do max burst damage. Because autoloaders have a thing called burst damage, which is where you unload a full magazine. And that is significant. And in this tank, the burst damage is around 800 damage points, around 200 per shell, plus minus. And then you have periods where you're not engaged. So what you should do with autoloaders, well, here's some basic do's, right? You should always count your shells. Make sure you know how many shells are in the magazine. Stay safe while you reload. You cannot fire at the enemy, so there's no point exposing yourself. Go into cover, stay safe. It's sensible. There's nothing cowardly about it. Use the inactive time to reload. What is inactive time? Well, inactive time is when you have no hope of firing at the enemy. So you're moving around the map, you're capturing a base, you're doing something where you're not engaging the enemy. So then use that time to reload your magazine. Even if you've only fired off one shell, if you're not going to engage the enemy for another 20 seconds, reload, right? These can be base capture, moving to engage, etc. Remember to keep your shell icon open, always, because if you double tap on a shell, then you can automatically reload. You often see people who are not familiar with autoloaders, they've got one shell left in the magazine and they fire it off so they can get a full magazine reload. You don't need to do this. If you double tap on the open shell icon, you automatically reload the magazine. And this is key because you don't need to fire, you don't need to waste that shell, and you don't need to blow your camouflage numbers, right? And of course then you're not wasting credits either, right? Because every shell you fire is a credit. So that's a simple rule, and it's a very simple tactic, so do that. and reload as often as you can, so that you maximize the number of times you can do maximum burst damage. Another amateur mistake of people who are not familiar with autoloaders is you see them driving around the map for, like, you know, a minute with one shell in the magazine. They haven't used that downtime to reload their magazine. So you should always do that. Make sure that you have the maximum number of shells in your magazine, the maximum amount of time. Now, let's have a look at some gameplay. We're going to have a look at Faust, or Fist as it is in English, and we're going to have a look at Supremacy game, and this is a mastery game in the Defender Mark 1 as well. Now, you're going to note some things in this game. You're going to note the management of the shell types, cycling through the different shells. You're going to note the management of the magazine itself, reloading as often as possible, and also note the bounces that are that I can get using this turret armor. So, as is typical in a medium tank on this map, I normally go towards A. And what I want to do here is I want to get into this position here where I can use this hill so I can go hold down and fire over it. So therefore I am playing to the strengths of the tank. Now, we have one tank spotted, another tank coming up here, but as the best laid plans of mice and men always do, they go out the window because we get attacked from behind. Now we'll see though the power of having the shells in the magazine there. 3 rounds into him, and I'm able to put a lot of damage into him, set him on fire, and allow my allies to clear. Trying to get into a position here where I can keep my hull safe. Didn't really work out, but in the end I decided to push on and clear off that bulldog. Now, as I said, I wanted to go into a position where I could get hull down and fire onto the enemy and not take damage. That didn't really work out for me, but can't really complain because now we are going to clear off 3 enemy tanks. Okay, I took some damage. I've lost, you know, 60% of my hit points, but we've cleared off 3 enemy tanks, secured that flank, captured the base. So I've done my job as a team player, done my job for my team at seizing the light to medium tank channel, capturing the base at A, and now we've cleared off 4 enemy tanks, and now we have a 5-3-3 situation. Just want to slow it down here so you can see this bounce. Look at that bounce that I've just gotten there. 400 alpha roll bounce straight off the front of that turret, right off that gun mantlet, exactly as we looked at in the tech spec. There you see it in action, in game. So that is the theory being put into practice. You can see if I had not turned my turret towards that IS-6, he would have penned me more than likely. But by turning the turret towards him, he has just that massive, really impenetrable turret to look at, and I get that bounce and another bounce again from the glacial. You saw bouncing right off the side of the turret there. Massive bounce, another 400 alpha roll bounce, no damage. If you are taking hits on the turret of this tank, you will get bounces all day long, and that bounce enables me to not take any damage and capture another base. We're down to 4v3 now, but I'm using the speed of my tank maneuverability to come around and to flank the enemy. I'm going to come up now behind this Tiger 1, and I have a full magazine reloaded. And again, this is key. I'm counting my shells. I know I have a full magazine reloaded. Why is that important? Because I know that my max burst damage, I can take this Tiger out, and I have 1 shell spare. Now I go to reload my magazine, but I made a bit of a mistake. Didn't realize the ISF was so close, but you can see, get around behind him. That's the danger gone, and my teammates are able to come around and clear him off, and I put 1 round into him, and then my team clear him off. Now we're in a much better position. It was 4v3 with some you know, heavy enemy tanks left. Now we're in a position where we have 2 bases captured, 4v1 situation, and this game is more or less over. I decided to do what you should do in Supremacy. Rather than go run directly towards the enemy now, We have him spotted, but I decide to capture a base while I see where he is, see if I can get a shot onto him. I can't. So what I do is I'm going to capture this base, get some additional XP, and then I'm going to go up behind him. Again, I have my full magazine reloaded. I know I can clear him off. Now what I decide to do here is I decide to switch up to APCR. Why? Well, probably I can pen him with AP, but I am certain I will pen him with APCR, and I'm also certain he's under my max burst damage roll, so therefore why run the risk of taking damage, maybe even setting me on fire, and me not being able to clear him off. Err on the side of caution. That's what APCR is for, right? You know, your shell types are a toolbox. You see some blitz snobs who say, oh, you shouldn't have to fire APCR, only noobs do that. Listen, if that was the case, they wouldn't be in the game, right? They're in the game for a reason. Use them when you need them, and you can see here that using APCR, I guarantee clear off, get the extra kill. That's 3 kills for me, and I am able to deliver additional XP, which delivers that mastery badge. So there you go, 3.2k damage. Not that significant. When I was making the video for this, I think I did over 4k. But of course, damage is not what delivers mastery badges, it's XP. And here we have 1.25k of XP delivered. A lot of that is for base capture, scouting, active activities within the game. You can see here that I damaged the Bulldog, the Pantera, almost 1,000 alpha roll on him, the Panther M10, the Glacial, which we cleared off at the end, the Tiger, which we cleared off, and the IS-5. Now, you know, noting from that game, the turret armor, right, the mobility of the tank, and of course the lesson about using a autoloader is make sure you have the maximum number of shells loaded as often as possible. For example, people not familiar with autoloaders who are new to it, you might come up on the Tiger, for example, 1 shell, and then he could have cleared you off, right, because the Tiger is a very aggressive brawler. So always remember maximum number of shells in the magazine, maximum amount of time. Now let's have a recap. This is a good medium tank, but at 15,000 gold or 25,000 gold, which is almost 45 euros, 42, something like that, and 70, it's quite expensive. 87mm tank is, 87mm gun's a bit light, but the pen is okay, and I would run APCR as well. Play the autoloader strengths, count your shells, etc. Please take note of the autoloader mini tutorial. Maximize your burst damage frequency, play to your downtime, all key parts of playing an autoloader well. Take note of the great power to weight ratio in this tank. It has slightly poorer traverse than many tanks, but if you move your tracks you can compensate for that. It has good gun handling, good alignment, and good dispersion, so play to that too. Use calibrated shells, supercharge and refined gun. It's a good setup for this tank, should you decide to buy it, of course. And here's its main thing, hold down tactics, right? The gun depression and the turret winning combo, and you saw that turret, it will get you bounces all day long. The turret is a thing of beauty on this tank. And you know, if you play to those strengths, you will have a really good time playing this tank. Now it's a good tank and you will enjoy it, but here's the thing, you may not have 42 euros and you may not have 70 euros, right? So is there a Tech Tree equivalent? Well, there isn't really, but if you want something similar, the T69 in the American medium line of Tier 8 is equivalent, and if you want to just play an autoloader, then I'd recommend the Pantera P44, which is a fantastic autoloader. So cheers Mush, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, hope you found it useful, and I guess all that remains for me to say is pants off.